Are you ready to learn? Because my super experienced guests are ready to share some really valuable information. Make sure and listen all the way to the end to get help and support. So let's start with the best audio experience.
Hello everyone and welcome to our show. Today we discuss about hidden content, how you can create content and can you hide or not. We will know if you listen the entire episode. I'm so excited to discuss this topic with Dan Petrovic. How are you?
I am very good. How about you?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Yeah, what I like on internet that for example, I have evening, you have morning, so but we can unite to share more value. And by the way, we have Nick. Yeah, she's joining us. So yeah, we can learn more about hidden content, from two great experts. Before we start, just tell more about yourself, experience, background, and why you decided to share with us about hidden content.
Well, I'm Dan Petrovic. I'm the founder and managing director of Dejan Marketing. I've been doing SEO for 20 years. I've seen all sorts of things, and very few things are new and interesting to me these days. Most things that pop up, seen it before, old news. But there are some things that have changed recently about hidden content that I'm happy to share with you today. And you'll be pleased to know that I have not even tweeted about this. So it's like completely brand new knowledge. Now,
Sure.
if we go historically, I started investigating the new types of hidden content 10 years ago, 2012. In December 2012, I wrote an article called Google Ignores Hidden Content, Including Tabs. So we're not talking about classic black hat hidden content where you just Z minus everything to the side of the page, 999 pixels. We're talking about the good intentioned hidden content, tabs, accordion, user interface stuff. Yeah, and I think about 10 years ago, 2012 is when it all started becoming a bit more mainstream. Tabs were becoming more common, accordions were becoming more common, but Google still didn't have a good idea how to handle on that. And of course, back then, mobile first wasn't a thing. 10 years ago, not everyone was holding their phone in their hand as a first thing. Now that has changed around, and Google has since changed the narrative. They've said, no, it's fine to hide content because it's good user experience, and we'll index the website as a mobile first. We'll look at how it renders on a mobile device, and then that's how we'll judge it in the rankings. But since then, since 2012 and perhaps last year, I've been observing again and again and again, and it keeps coming up in SEO discussions. Every time you hide content, it doesn't perform as well as the website that shares it without hiding. To the point where if you have two websites, one is of a high authority and hides the content, a scraper website of very low authority takes that content away from them and shows it by default. The scraper will outrank the authority site just because it's shown is visible. So that was the first article I wrote 10 years ago, and then we've had one in 2015 when I did an experiment. It was called "Can Hidden Content Rank Well?" And that's when I first announced the problem to the world. Then after that, in June, so this was a March article, and in June I wrote an article, "Here's Why Nobody Reads Your Content," where I explained that people don't really read anything online. They kind of scan the page. They look for little answers, bullet points, bolded words, and users love accordions and they love tabs because it structures the data. It's a good thing. So then I realized, okay, we've got a problem. Users love hidden content when it's done right, and then Google doesn't reward it. we've got a problem. And then I have an ethical obligation to advise my clients what to do. And I'm saying to my clients, well, to do the right thing by users, you have to structure the content and sometimes hide it because it's good user experience. But to do the right thing by Google, you have to reveal the content to be fully visible. So there's a conflicting advice, and I've always chosen to advise everyone, if it's important, don't hide it. Display that content. Anything that's boilerplate, repetitive, that is not of no value, that can be tucked away behind accordions and tabs. Now, going chronologically, then I published another piece called User Behavior Data as a Ranking Signal. So this was an article I published in August 2015 on Moz. And then what I did is that article had a little bit of an innovation element in it, because what it did, instead of jumping out to a new page when you need to read more about something, like a classic link, when you click on the link, you would expand in line within the text of the Moz page. So you click on it and it gives you more info, just pushes down the rest of the article and injects more stuff. So what happened, this is the key moment. So what happened after that, I copied that same article from Moz and I put it on the Dejan marketing website without hiding. Opened all the hidden elements were opened. Consistently, my version of the article, despite it being a duplicate, and despite Dejan marketing website having lower authority than the Moz website, I kept outranking Moz consistently for many, many years. So that was the proof that it not only impacts the hidden content, the text behind the tab, but it also impacts the performance of the overall article. Like if I search for a title, user behavior data as a ranking signal, I would see the Dejan article version, not the Moz version. Then people say, well, that's not true, mobile first, this, that. So I did a follow-up test in 2018 in September. I see the same results. Nothing's changed. And then I write, I wrote about the hidden content and the dangers of it still back in October in 2015, culminating at this final article where somebody just popped up and said, oh, is it okay to put content in those accordions? And I just had enough. So this question's been asked over and over again. So I just copied a piece of text from the whitehouse.gov, put it on my website, didn't hide it, and outranked that piece of content. So the Dejan marketing website ranks higher than the whitehouse.gov for that piece of content. Of course, it was quote query for that exact search string, but it showed that hidden content will not rank as well. So what I have to announce today is that something good has happened finally. And I don't know when it kicked in. I only randomly looked at these things because I was trying to dig up all my dusty old article from 10 years ago so I can bring them up in this conversation. And I found that article that was published on Moz, if I search for the title now, it will be Moz article that comes up first, not the Dejan. So as it is now, the case, this is the current state. Overall content will not be pushed down for a page that hides content, but only those elements that are hidden behind the hidden element. So those are the little findings and updates that I had for you today. So I think this provides definitive answer, but also is a sample of one. So what I do is I invite the SEO community to follow up, to do something similar and structure their own tests and share the results, so we can all join in discovery and get to the bottom of it, so we can recommend SEO solutions to our clients without wondering.
Yeah, interesting. What do you think about publications like Forbes, Bloomberg? They have subscription model. You can see only the beginning of the articles, and many websites can steal this content. post on their websites. So, but I see Google understands content from Forbes and can rank well. But I don't know if I repost this content on my website or any other related websites to Forbes. So, is it possible to outrank them or not?
Yeah, well, there's two parts to this question, I guess. One is if they're behind paywalls. If you see only a snippet of an article and then the rest of it is only shown to paid subscribers.
Yes.
Google has a really strong relationship with publishers, and it's a political issue. A couple of years ago, Australia had a very big turmoil, a very sort of turbulent situation with the publishers. It was a big legal action. They were demanding money from Google for taking their content and this and that. It was a bit ridiculous because Google was providing free traffic to them, and they wanted to charge Google per click for people for Google displaying their content in the search results, or per impression. Something ridiculous like that. Just shows the lack of understanding of these publications as to how search actually works and how it benefits users. That said, because of their love for publishers, Google has repeatedly ignored the best thing for the users. When users see an article in the search results, they click on it and they see a paywall. They are frustrated. It provides bad user experience. That hit back and they go find something else unless they're subscribed. I've lobbied for Google to add a little label to like a schema or rich snippet that says this is a paid result. And fine, publishers need money. Good journalism is important. And so I even suggested to Google to provide a very easy way for people to subscribe. Pay 10 cents for this article to be read. Subscribe with some sort of Google News premium subscription, and every time you click on an article, you pay 10 cents. People will do that, and people will also subscribe to premium news with Google and open that up. But users must be shown that this is a click that's not leading to the full content, because it's otherwise bad user experience. So going back to the main point is, if you hide the content behind a paywall and somebody scrapes the original content and shows it, they will absolutely 100% outrank that. There's no doubt about that. But that's a DMCA issue, not really an SEO problem. That's a copyright infringement, and those scrapers will probably be well known to Google because so many of the DMCA requests for that particular domain. So they might actually start demoting those types of websites, which I would do if I ran a search engine. Now, the second thing is, even if you had two websites and one publishes content as the original, whether they hide it or not is besides the point. If you have another website that steals that content but provides more authority to that page, let's say New York Times published the page in 93, and that article is deeply buried somewhere in the archives of the New York Times website. If you republish that article on Reddit today and it gets to the homepage and everyone upvotes it, Reddit will absolutely 100% rank first. And the New York Times, as the original publisher, will lose to that article as the canonical article. Now, it doesn't have to be a super authority website like Reddit. It can be a medium to low authority website, for as long as it's higher up on the page hierarchy, and for as long as you provide more page rank, raw page rank to that page, it'll outrank even authority website that has buried the page very deeply. So in a sense, it is hidden, but not in visibility, but hidden in the site hierarchy, buried very deep, like say 5-6 clicks to get to it from the homepage navigation type thing.
If I can jump in there,
Yeah,
and
sure.
if I could just like say hello to everybody, and that my name's Nick Ranger, and I was kind of sitting here listening into at the moment. But Yeah, just to kind of tack on to what Dan's saying, because I'm a technical SEO, I feel like with publisher paywall content, like there really is a push-pull between discoverability and monetization. Google isn't biased against paywall content. It's just like, and I think even like Danny Sullivan tweeted like that their automated systems try to present the best information in relation to the search topic, as people expect Google to be able to use them as a search engine. But when it comes to publisher paywall content, it's really important how you actually implement that from a technical perspective. You can do things like flexible sampling, which is in place like a lot of the places. Like you can use metering, which provides users with a quota of free articles to consume, after which paywalls might start appearing. And I think The Guardian has that in place at the moment. Or you can use lead-in, which offers like a portion of an article's content without it being shown in full. And I think from memory, it's around about, you can kind of set the limit of anywhere from like 80 word article snippets, and that's used again with a lot of different models out there. There is schema you can be able to have in there. You can have article schema and paywall schema. Again, just providing contextual information about the content that is on the page. And that's really, really helpful to be able to differentiate paywall content from, so you're not like, hey, we're not trying to cloak anything here, which absolutely violates Google's guidelines. But there is schema in place, so you can be able to put that there. It really depends about the content quality and the frequency that you're putting up there, because again, if you're a news publisher, a lot of the things that you're trying to fight against is relevancy, and every other publisher out there. So frequency does really play a big part in this. And again, whether you do metering or lead-in kind of implementation with that strategy, you can then submit to Google News, Google Discover, Google Showcase, all these things that really help discover those current events, worldwide news, diverse content from different publishers. Allows people to be able to subscribe to specific news publishers and see those topics, and be able for them to be able to read that content online or offline. And also be able to share, bookmark and share articles, of course, which is ultimately, a really big important thing for publishers, which is the actual engagement with that content. So again, like there's things you can do when it comes to publisher, and particularly with paywall. And I think a lot of the time when people go into this, what I see from a technical perspective is none of those things. With I think smaller upcoming publishers, like that's not really well understood. That's not really well communicated, because there are really, really specific things that you have to do. And I worked on a project a couple of years ago where none of those things happened, and they structured all of their instead of structuring like their whole publisher site around the core topics that they were going after. I think they were going and talking about like gold stocks and investment kind of strategies here, but from that news perspective. And instead of like focusing around the topics, they focus around their authors, and that kind of like, there are things you can do. Nice. And well, in that case, it wasn't taken on board. I still look at that client and kind of ruminate on why their traffic has never really recovered, and they've been hit by algorithm update, and it's just never been able to recover. And it's kind of interesting to reflect on that and be like, there's some really set clear things that we can do in that aspect. So if you're having problems, if you're not actually being able to kind of lift off the ground from your search console with like this pitter patter of clicks, get a technical SEO, just go through, make sure that is there and in place. And if not, like go back, rewind this and do all those steps.
Yeah.
You mentioned The Guardian. I'm a big fan of their SEO, of their stuff, and I think they do it well. I mean, it's not like they have much choice in the current setup. That they get a little bit beggy, like Wikipedia does, and I think there's I have a problem with that, because it affects publishers' dignity to constantly beg for money and donations and things. And I think there's a better way to do that. And I think if publishers worked with Google to align with user experience, Google keeps saying do what's best for the user, but they're not doing what's best for the user when it comes to news. They're doing what's best for the publishers.
Yeah.
And that's not even best for the publishers, because ironically, what's best for the users is best for the publishers. And I think the holy trinity, Google, users, and the publishers, need to collaborate together on a user-centric strategy to provide these results. Now, flexible sampling, first click free, all that sort of stuff. These are steps in the right direction. But users really need to be informed of. Let's say you've got 1 click left on an article. That could be schema. Google has that information. You're logged in as a user, not schema, but it could be a snippet information. Kind of like when Google says you visited this page in June 2021, right? You've last visited this page. Now can they say you have 1 click remaining on the Guardian website? So I can then go, oh, okay, cool. I freely click because I know I can read that one. And then after that, if I want to see a Guardian content, it says you're out of your free clicks. Click here to subscribe. So money instantly from the search results flows to the publisher. Wouldn't that be beautiful? And it's not much money. People are already paying subscriptions to Netflix. We're used to paying for content. Micropayments through games, content subscriptions, Disney Plus, Netflix, Amazon Prime. And I think people would do this, but there's no will at Google's end, to really do what's right. And I present my screen now to show what I'm talking about. So I did a survey 2 years ago, and I asked people, would labeling paywall in Google's results be useful? This is what users said. So majority of the users would find a label useful to know that result is behind a paywall. And if you don't believe the stats here, I have a full data download that it's in a spreadsheet form. They can see. So then I present the problem, and then of course I run into an argument with Danny, who he's a very smart guy, and he's trying to get me to understand his point of view. But ultimately, Google is not doing what's best for the users, because users have spoken. By the way, I've followed up on this survey, and the results are still the same. And it wasn't just me. It was the other SEO companies and other bloggers who have had this problem, and non-SEOs who've published this on Reddit and other platforms, who are saying the same thing. Paywall results need to be labeled. We need to know. But Google won't do it. So that's just one form of hidden content that is not our fault. It's Google's fault. It's on a little bit on the other side of the spectrum.
That's like I completely hear what you're saying, but I also do understand the perspective from Google as a company as well. A lot of the time with industry and with change, and if I remember from reading your study about people don't read your content, the percentage of people, I think, was like 16% actually read the full article, and I was like, oh, that's actually that surprised me. It was higher than I thought. 16%.
You're a pessimist.
Oh, absolutely.
But for somebody who publishes content, right? You wrote stuff on the web, and you've done webinars, and you've appeared. Yeah. And to know that when you publish a webinar like this, Anatoly, people are not going to watch this. They're going to skip through it. You know that for a fact, but because you have analytics in YouTube, and you can see where people are skipping. Google itself is in search results showing the good parts of the videos. The whole part about hey guys, my name is this and that. Subscribe to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about the. Just skip that minute and go straight to the good part. Google's now showing that in the search results. User experience.
Yeah, I think
It's
so.
almost like, Google is also recognizing like this. Please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for all the updates. They're recognizing that almost as like boilerplate content.
Google's had enough. Googlebot has had enough of your crap as well as users.
Yeah,
I think
but I also
the
think
best
that
the best
users.
YouTubers don't do
sorry,
it.
Antoine.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Okay. Let's move on. By the way, Nick, I remember about our podcast because I got a bunch of questions about your performance. Most of them told me, she's young, but she can share a lot of valuable insights. So, and let's get back to the main topic about technical aspects. For example, if we hide some content on mobile phone, but we don't hide on the desktop version. I know that Google is against about that. Practice it's better to show all content, but sometimes we can't submit all content because users don't know, they need to scroll for a long time, to get the whole content, and they don't need it because on desktop probably they need, on mobile they don't. So what do you think? Is it a good idea to hide content on mobile or not?
It's funny when you say like, difference between mobile and desktop. With mobile first indexing, Google will prefer mobile contents because they understand that there's a massive shift towards from people coming away from the desktop experience and just sitting on their beds at night, like just scrolling on the phone. Everyone does it. I do it. And again, from a statistical point of view, I think the search engines realize that that's really the future and where users are going to be tending to spend a lot more time. Hence, the mobile, having things mobile friendly, and with the mobile's first indexing, if you've got if the HTML is different to the mobile version to the desktop version, well, very likely that the desktop view will be depreciated. It will be taken in place of the mobile one. So when I'm thinking about this, again, kind of in the same way that Dan likes to answer questions, like, I'm answering this in two parts. First, consider the mobile first indexation. Secondly, consider what you're actually showing to users and how you're coding this within the pages. Now, a lot of the things when we're thinking about hidden content and things that are displayed in tabs, again, Google knows that what is the statistical likelihood that someone's going to be reading on a page and actually clicking on those tabs and getting more contextual information about what is in that? Like, yeah, sure, like, they'll do that, and, they might learn something, internally about that, what people want to click on, what people want to use. That's completely up to the site owner. But Google is like, well, we've only got so much crawl budget. We've only got so much time to really care about crawling through all the content on your page, trying to render it, then considering things for index, and then ranking that so that users can then find and interact and then hopefully convert, blah, 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 right? So they're thinking like, well, I'm not going to take all of that into consideration. Now, when I look at tabbed content, most of the time, unless it's like with hashtags and paginated and all sorts of things, most of the implementation largely is all JavaScript based. So again, like when anything is hidden by walls of JavaScript, we've got things like, Google processes JavaScript by crawling and rendering and indexing. For that, you need to be able to with the processing and preparing that HTML and the resources to render it, it needs to find that resource and those links to those pages, or in this case, to the content and the files that needed to actually build that page. These are then added to the crawl queue and then they're cached. Then it needs to prioritize and schedule based on that crawl queue. And again, if it's statistically less likely, and Google knows this, that users are going to click onto that, and it's not there in like A tags or href attributes, and it needs to like spend a bit of extra time doing that, well, it might take like maybe the first sentence, but it won't take all of it. And there's a client that Dan and I were talking to even recently, where they put all their really, really important information about like all the product information just hidden in these tabs. And what they had in their generic content was like, oh, like, this is a nice, cool product. We like this, things that are like, oh, that's fun and nice to know, but it's not giving the user any of that, hard qualified information about the product that's going to influence their purchasing decision. All that juicy, unique research content is hidden in all these tabs. Now, for people listening to this, for people watching this, you can try this right now. Go into one of these tabs if you feel like, this applies to you. Maybe scroll through, or even, take the top, take anywhere in the bits and pieces. Make sure there's no apostrophes or full stops or anything that might kind of jade the HTML of that. And you can just copy out a little bit of section that you think is important. Now put it in quotation marks, then go site : your website. Does it appear in search results? Yes, no. Most of the time when I'm showing and talking about this with clients, I do this live test with them, because it's I'm not just saying this because I want to spend heaps of development resources, or wake up your designer in the middle of the night, be like, we need to redo all the layout pages. It's because of this reason. This is really important content that you want not just your users to be able to see, but also search engines consider that when they're considering these pages. So if you're putting all the time and effort into that, let's just maybe get them out of those tabs and put them onto the page, and maybe structure the layout in a way that it's nice, it's easy, it's readable, it's fun for people to see. Put it into bullet points, have nice little layouts for them. Do whatever you need to do. But again, a lot of the time when we think about hidden content and what Dan's talking about was literally taken from that tabbed content. So that's a really, really good test to do.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
from that, we can also say, since Nick touched on Google being able to understand and render JavaScript pages, and kind of it's 2022, right? It's not 2001. They hit a JavaScript page. They can see the content. They understand what the page looks like when it's rendered. So with that fact, plus another fact that Google now have the page fragment URLs. You can copy a piece of text from a page, copy, and then get a link from that text piece only. So when you send it to a friend, they jump straight to that sentence in the middle of that page, right? So the technology is there. Chrome can do this. So if we marry the ability of Google to parse JavaScript and understand the content, and the ability to get to the content fragments, we can then see how easy it would be for Google to at least attempt to, from search results, send a user directly. Let's say somebody searches for blue widgets in search results, but blue widgets is hidden behind the tab. Now that's a search query. Now we see a snippet. We click on a snippet, and user is taken to the tab that automatically opens, or an accordion that expands, and user is then shown that part of the page that mentions that query that's relevant to their search. Google can do this. They don't.
Mm-hmm.
They can do this. And I'm sure somebody in Google Labs is experimenting with this. And I'm sure that because I'm sure there are mistakes and errors, and it looks a bit alpha and beta still. They haven't rolled it out, but I'm sure they have this ability, and I would love to see that in the future, because that would be good user experience, where user is taken from search results directly to the tab or an accordion that expands and shows them that piece of content that's relevant to them at that time. And so that would be on my wish list for 2023. 4. Let's be realistic.
Okay.
Maybe 5. Now I'm going back to your exact question. I'm not in favor of mobile first. I think that's a stupid idea. There are a lot of users who are on desktop, and there are users who search on desktop for certain queries. I do desktop for serious research, and I do mobile for casual stuff, right? So How simple is it to show desktop first to desktop users in results and mobile first to mobile users in results? So how should a website be evaluated and ranked depends on the user first philosophy.
I
If
agree
I'm
with you in
searching,
an infinite crawl world. Because like, yeah, we'll spend all this money, we'll just have, two whole subsets. I mean, that would be great, but
yeah. So
Yeah.
if there's any number of reasons for this, but like I said, one, and it's a big one, is that not just certain types of people or certain types of situations, but certain types of queries really not suitable for mobile. You need a desktop to perform a certain number of queries. And to show the best user experience, you evaluate the website for ranking purposes and user experience as it was indexed, crawled, indexed, and ranked for the device that the user is going to consume it on, whether it be mobile or desktop, but it has to be consistent. I don't think it's good user experience to rank the website on the basis of user experience on the mobile, showing it to the user that's on a desktop machine. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
But again, so simple, but I guess it is what it is. We could
Yeah,
argue about
got
that
it.
for a very long time.
Okay, can you give your tip what to do? For example, do we need webmasters to hide content, or it's better to avoid, as Google usually shares that you don't need to hide content, it's better to show the whole content. Your advice, what to do today?
Content expensive. Like good content is really expensive. So would you buy like a really expensive suit and never wear it? Keep it in your wardrobe. Would
Bye
you
bye.
I don't
Yeah.
do about
would
my
you buy a
wardrobe.
fancy car? Would you buy a fancy car and never take it for a drive? I think
Yeah.
you see where I'm getting at here. If you had a product on your e-commerce website and you wrote this fantastic description that goes in depth into product, and you reviewed its features and you spin it around in 3D and you show all its facets and you have user reviews on it. If you had all that gold, why in the world would you hide it from the users? And I know the answer. The answer is conversion rate optimization, right? There's a myth that people need to minimize the amount of information on a product page to improve its conversion. So it's all funneling down to, but that's not true. If you actually record user sessions on a typical e-commerce website, you will notice that they will go on a product and they'll scroll down looking for user reviews. They'll click away into tabs and things. Well, it depends. It depends on what stage of the journey they are in. If they've researched anything and they just go to buy, then that's a different story. But if they need a little bit more convincing, and there's a lot of big segment of the user base, if they need convincing research, let's say I'm buying a complicated machine. Let's say one of the big things that I bought recently was a snap maker. It's a CNC machine, laser cutter, laser engraver, and a 3D machine in one package. Does it have a rotary module that I can buy for it so it can carve in a fourth axis, like 4D? No idea. So I'm ready to buy the machine, but this one thought comes to my mind and I don't know. So now I'm embedding my purchasing process and I'm fishing around for this other information. I can't find it on the page. So I'm going to the forum, I'm getting lost, and I'm now on another website. It's too hard. So I bookmark the page. I'll come back to it later. What if I never come back to it? What if they've just lost a sale because all the information is not in there? So my advice to webmaster is, if it's important, don't hide it. If a page is, if the piece of content is really high quality, really important, has the ability to impact the purchasing decision or conversion decision, then show it. Types of content that you can safely hide away is anything we call as boilerplate. shipping policies, guarantees, return policies, this and that type of content that appears on every page of your on every product, for example, on every page of your content. Those types of things are safe. Or anything that has an overwhelming amount of detail. Sometimes it makes sense to hide a very large table that provides like a sheet of specifications for a complex product. That makes sense to hide, but then you need to provide the means from within the main body of the article, that high quality content, to click some sort of hyperlink to open up, to jump to that information. You need to make it known that that tab exists. Otherwise, you could lose a valuable sale. So my advice is very simple: important things you don't hide.
Yeah,
Yeah.
love it, love it. Okay, guys, I have the final question. I have a lot of students in my audience, and they often ask me how to be an expert in one day. Can you lead them in the right direction? Tell how to learn SEO today, because many of them tell that SEO is dead. It's a good idea to jump on this field today. What do you think about that? Just brief points, Dan and Nick.
Look, I'm going to
Yeah,
jump
okay.
in here because, Dan's got 20 years of experience. I've got nearly the better part of 10. What I see as a common denominator is all about you and your mindset. SEO, search engine optimization, is a wonderful, wonderful career. It's one that I'm just endlessly fascinated with, and for the first time in my life, the curiosity is the forger of the pathway that is defining my career and my life. And that's wonderful. That's exciting. It's not dictated by money, although money comes as like a really nice natural byproduct of that, which is nice. But it's the curiosity, and it's the idea that having like something like a growth mindset of seeing new challenging things, constantly changing algorithms, and seeing that as a fun challenge, and seeing that as something that is exciting because you see the boundary of your understanding of how you learn, and seeing that as like, well, this isn't scary, this is exciting. And I think if you take that really simple concept and think about how you approach new things, and try and really take that in, and to be excited about that, it doesn't matter what you apply yourself to. If you have that is going to be the best tool that you can forge. There is so much art. There's so much resources out there in the web. We're talking to people like us, where you can sort of kind of like, find tactical information, so you can kind of like, take these things away and think, oh, okay, like, these are some good tools I can use. Like, I'll put them in the basket and I'll collect it. But if you're constantly going out there and trying to get those quick wins, or things that are just going to like, transform your you're just looking for that consistent praise, or that consistent like, little nugget of, oh yay, like, this is good, but you're not really like taking something away in that, and being excited that I've learned something new that I didn't know before, and to be comfortable with your vulnerability of saying, I don't know this, can I like tell me, like teach me, or how do I even approach thinking about this, because I've read all these interesting things, and like this is great and it makes sense, and I'll try and reiterate it to you, but I don't understand it. Like, if you can approach it from that perspective, you're going to be fine in any aspect of your life, in any aspect, but particularly with SEO, you have to be constantly curious. So start
Nice.
there.
Love it. Nick, I like how you think about that, your energy, your passion. So, I can, when you explain about that, I remember my son when he explains me about a new game. It's unpredictable. He doesn't know how to play, but he plays because of these things that might happen.
Mhm.
It's the same with Google updates. Yeah. It scares, but it's a new journey, and if you adapt faster than your competitors, so you can overcome them. Love it. No, love your energy.
Absolutely.
As usual.
I'm a technical SEO and I'm not a developer. In some worlds, like those things don't make sense, but they do in this context. And there's many other technical SEOs out there in the world that are very proficient and very successful, all because from my perspective, they have this similar trait, which is like, yes, it is perceived to be difficult. It is very difficult to understand, particularly when you don't have a development background, but you know what you're looking for. You know what the concepts are. And it's exciting to start to chip away in your mind, like how this whole world starts to weave together. And that's the thing.
Right.
Awesome.
Then, your tip. Tell our audience, if someone wanna write articles for Moz, argue with Dan Sullivan and many other stuff, how to achieve it.
Be ready to receive a penalty from Google every now and then, like I did. So that'll be part of my. Let's have 3 tips. First one is, I guess, aligning with Nick said. There are no stupid questions. Don't be afraid to ask. Just keep asking questions. Doesn't matter. The second one is, it's okay to be wrong, and it's okay to make mistakes and break stuff. I still make mistakes and I still am wrong, even in front of my clients. And I tell my clients when I'm wrong, and I tell them why I was wrong and what I've learned from that. They love it. They love the openness. So never stop being wrong, because if you're constantly right, I don't think you're pushing boundaries enough. So number 3, stop watching Anatoly's podcast, stop reading Dan's blog, stop reading Moz. Roll up your sleeves and do stuff. You're not going to learn things by reading and watching what other people have done and are doing. You have to really, if you're just really new in SEO, start a blog, start an e-commerce website, sell a few things, get an experience of how it really feels like, be the client. If you're an SEO who's never sold anything online or hasn't had a business, it's very abstract. If you set up a tiny little shop and you're selling 1 or 2 products, oh my God, how do you source the product? How do you say it? Getting the reviews, the stress of shipping it, getting it to the real point. Do stuff, set up a blog, set up a small shopping cart, have an experience. Guess what? If you'll break things, you make mistakes, you'll learn on it. You have one first thing to put on your resume. And that gets you the real
that
job.
I wouldn't. Oh man, that's just.
I agree.
Just remembering I put up a shop on Squarespace and. Anyway,
go for it.
I agree. It was a wonderful learning experience all those years ago.
Yes.
Yeah. 100%. Because doing is more important than learning. It's like to read 100 books how to play soccer. If you don't play, you can't be good player.
No.
It's the same with that. So guys, I don't my recommendation is to follow them and Nick, to learn from them. But when you learn, just do what they recommend, what they implement, because nobody knows what actually works for you. It depends. But when you learn something, like 20% of time that I usually do, I read books, listen to audio podcasts, just 20% of my time, and 80% of my time I implement and test all this stuff and search for something that works for me. So you can find ideas from Dan and Nick, follow them on social media. By the way, tell our audience how they can reach out to you, learn more about you, follow you.
At Dejan SEO, Twitter.
Okay, guys, you can find the link to the website, to social media. Listen to us on Apple, Google, Spotify. Thanks again, guys, for your time. It's a big pleasure. Welcome back anytime to share more valuable insights. Yeah. If you watch, you can see Twitter from Nick, but you can find in the description. Okay, guys, love you. See you.
Thank you.